Monday, April 6th, 2026, right at 12:50 p.m. And this is just my truth and my perspective, my story. Everybody has their own, and they're entitled to it, really. They're entitled to their own truth. It's our First Amendment. And our Second Amendment, the ability to protect our truth or our perspective. And really, you might find things that I say in this video offensive. But it's the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth, so thank you for listening. So help me heavenly. Totally. Holy Spirit, be with me as I speak and just tell my truth, because everybody wanted to say I was a liar. Yeah, it's a spam risk. And yeah, to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me heavenly. Really. And after I spoke with Terry Cam, and he had me go back and said he would take me all the way to Supreme Court if I was telling the truth. And when I got back, I wanted to give Mike back the RAV4. The Toyota that I had, because I couldn't afford it, number one, and number two, it was a piece of junk. And remember, he promised he'd pay it off. I'd only have 2 payments. It was like $700 a month to keep that car, and it was junk. So I went back, and I had the restraining order, and I was with Joe. And I had Joe go up, to Mike's door so I could ask for the Bronco 2 in my camper, my little casita, so I could keep Delphi safe, and I would have a place to stay. And Mike came out, and he shook hands with Joe, and, I'm asking him, hey, I have nowhere to go. And I stayed all the way on the other side of the street, across the street. And I needed a place to sleep. And Mike went in to the house, I guess, or something. And Lucas comes out, my son. And he said, you can't have nothing, Mom, till after the divorce. You can't have anything. Wow. That really hit me. And I said, gosh, Lucas, why do you hate me so much? Why do you hate me, son? I said, you want to hear my side of the story now? He says, no, I don't want to hear anything you have to say, Mom. I heard everything from CYFD and the staters about you. I don't want to hear nothing. I said, God, Lucas, you don't want to hear anything I have to say? No, I don't want to hear anything. They told me everything I need to hear. Wow. And I said, gosh, why so much hate, Lucas? Why do you hate me? I had to get away from him. I asked you to come help me. He says, I hate you because you made me go to church, Mom. I was, wow. Well, I took off from there. I wasn't going to get my Bronco 2 or my casita or anywhere to stay. No resources at all. So Joe and I drove away with Delphi. And that's when we went to the St. James Hotel, Cimarron. And that's when Delphi died on Mother's Day. I didn't get to see my girls for Mother's Day. I didn't hear nothing from Lucas, obviously. He was really mad at me. It was really sad, really. And, I got hit in the face with a ton of bricks by my own son. It was really sad. And that's how I see Mike let him in. And I guess what CYFD was saying about me and everybody else, of course, I wouldn't want to talk to me either if that was the truth. But I wish he would have let me at least say my truth. But, I got shut down. And, so, I stayed in Raton at the hotel there by McDonald's. Motel 6 and whatnot. And it was really weird because they were putting security cameras, a whole new security system in there. And in fact, I think it was the Travel Lodge I was staying at. And I always felt like people were watching me everywhere I went. I got no peace, and I was suffering so bad from my PTSD trauma, from the narcissistic abuse I suffered. Not just from Mike, but what he did to my kids and turned them into and led them into. Ooh. Yeah, trying to cover his own stuff and having me just watched everywhere I went. They were counting how many cigarettes I bought, even. And my RAV4 got repoed. I called them and told them to come get it. Yeah, I had to kind of live in it. Unfortunate. And, yeah, they took it down to Albuquerque. Eventually I did go down and get my stuff out of it, but, yeah, it was awful. And, yeah, he was watching me wherever I went. And then I ran out of money, and I hooked up with Dr. Reverend John Paul McGarry there at the First Presbyterian Church. He's a good friend. And he's a good pastor. And, you know, the first time I met him, I said, you know, when I grow up, I want to be just like you. You know, a minister, to minister to people. Because I care what they're going through. Because I was going through it too. I'm not anybody's victim, but other people were manipulated. And I wanted to help others, you know. And he said, how refreshing. And he did a deposition for me, for a lack of better terminology. And it basically said, hey, you talk to her family, all you're going to get is lies. And I had went to the VA Medical Center there in Raton. And I was returning a flag. It was like Veterans Day or Memorial Day. And this flag was half in the dirt, this American flag. And I said, Joey, let's get that. That shouldn't be in the dirt like that. So we wrapped it up and strapped it to the top of the RAV4, and I was going to return it, and that's what I did. And I went there and I asked the lady about education. I was still married to Mike. I knew I was never going to be with him ever again. But I went about my education, you know, and any medical benefits I could get, being his wife. And nice lady over the counter, you know, she handed me a card and said, call this lady, and she'll be able to help you with the education. You know, whatever benefits you can get by being married to him still. And I said, okay, thank you so much. And I took the card, and I said, will you come out and get this flag with me? I want to return it honorably. It was in the dirt and angel fire, and it shouldn't be. So she came out with me, and I gave her the flag, unstrapped it from the RAV4. And, and the next thing, you know, John's telling me, he said, you know, I went to the, you know, he heard this rumor. John, you know, he said to me, hey, I got to stay away from you. You're dangerous. I said, really? He said, yeah, apparently, according to Shelley, your son's working at the NRA with her, and she happened to be a member of the High Council of the Presbyterian Church, right? And John's telling me, yeah, Shelley told me that your son was going on and on about how you went to the VA center and broke it up with baseball bats, broke the windows, broke the computers, broke up the office, and I was threatening everybody for money. And Shelley told John that they had to call the FBI to haul my ass out of there. And so John went to go and check. At least he checked. At least. He went to the VA there in Raton Medical Center. And nice lady behind the counter. He asked her, was there some lady in here a couple of weeks ago with a baseball bat and breaking up desks and threatening employees for money? There's some lady here like that? And you had to call the FBI to haul her out of there? out of here? And the lady looks at John so strange. No, I don't even know the number to the FBI, Dr. Reverend John Balmagary. That never happened. Never happened that way. It happened the way I said it, but look what they turned it into on me. And they spread it like wildfire, so they got everybody thinking this stuff about me. John was the only one to go to check, apparently. And, this thing where I killed my bird, I murdered my bird, that came up in court. Well, how did Mike even know that my bird died or what happened? If he knew the truth, he'd know that it was an accident. And I didn't hurt Delphi at all. He murdered him by not letting me have my casita and a safe place to stay, really. If he had, Delphi'd still be alive, probably. And that was Mother's Day of 2019. And I didn't get a phone call from anybody wishing me happy Mother's Day. And I had to watch my poor bird get murdered right in front of me. And Mike was saying, yeah, you were laughing about Delphi getting eaten from the asshole end. Where did he get that from? I never said that. But that's what happened to my poor bird, the 3 ravens. And somehow he, heard that from, I was laughing. Oh, God. That was incredibly traumatizing. Just adding to the abuse. All these rumors going around about how many cigarettes I bought. If I was drinking. Yeah, I could get my head around what was happening. Not at all. And I broke up with Joey for a while there in Raton. And I was on my own. I was staying at Bear's house, not where I wanted to stay, but I wasn't getting any help from April Jolly. In fact, all I was getting was threatened and my visits rescheduled and her cornering me to give her a urine sample. Yeah, it was really weird. Yeah. And I was doing my psychology. I was doing my appointments with my therapist, Ava. Their therapy office up there by the high school. And I was doing okay. I was trying. I was really, really trying. And I was also very brain damaged. I'd only been gone since April out of New Mexico. April Fool's Day, I came back in May. So I had no recovery. I didn't even know about, really, the wisdom of Carl Jung that I've been studying the last 8 years. And what was happening to me. Now I get it. Now I get it. They were making me look bad to hide their own stuff. That's the truth of it. And my truth was very threatening, obviously. And, and I guess I was too forceful with my attorney, too demanding. And I was doing my videos. I was telling the truth. And Terry didn't like that at all. I would send emails, but nobody listened to me. And I was getting ready for a psychological evaluation that they wanted me to do. And it brought up a lot of memories for me. Getting ready just to, even because they wouldn't let me see my kids or talk to them until I had a psychological evaluation. Well, they should have been psychologically evaluating Michael Rubin. Yeah, he's a master manipulator. So, I had a memory about an event with Dixie when she was about 8, I think, 7 or 8. And I saw Mike doing something with her in the bed. And Carrie Ann was there, and they had these pillows in between them as a barrier. And Dixie was all curled up in Mike's left arm, And when I walked in to tell him his friend was here to see him, he covered himself up real fast and was doing something under the blanket. Well, I'm having this memory about this happening, right? And I called Lucas down, and I called my brother David. He says, if you really don't have anything, if you really don't, didn't see him, what they were doing before you walked in, well, then, you don't want to bring that down on your family. Do you, Lori? And, so I didn't say anything. And Lucas, he said Dixie was lying about it. No, nothing happened. So it was me against them. But I was having this memory before this psychological evaluation, so I called Terry Cam, and I said, hey, I had this memory of this event, this thing that happened, Dixie and Mike, and Lucas, because Lucas, I called him down. And it was really profound, so I told Terry Cam about this incident, and I was concerned. I think Mike was molesting my children, doing things inappropriate with them. I called April Jolly, I told her too, and I called Tina Lever with ATV and CASA for Kids, and I let them know my suspicions. They might want to look into it and see if she's being sexually abused by anybody, or if she had been. Yeah, she was in Carlos Cordova's custody at this time. This was in July of 2019. And apparently they didn't do a thing. And then I did this psychological evaluation, and that was really, really hard. And the psychologist was trying to say a bunch of garbage about me. Grandeur and all this stuff. And remember, I was supposed to have one in Espanola too. But the therapist that, resonated with me, they got rid of that one. Because she wouldn't do what they were telling her to do. And that was lie about me. And so that therapist quit her job over that. Anyway, so I did the psychological evaluation. And they're trying to make me out to be something I wasn't. Really. And I reported it. They didn't do anything. Well, that was in July of 2019. And John wrote his deposition, for a lack of better terminology, to defend me. And that all you're going to get from her family are lies, really. He knew me better. He knew me true. He was a good friend to me. But he couldn't help me because he knew that most everybody was against me because of everything that Michael Rubin was saying. And again, I'll admit it, I was drinking. I didn't know how to cope with any of those things. And I spent time separated from Joey. And if they didn't help me, it didn't matter what I did. So in September of 2019, I get a call from, I think it was Sarah Montoya. Oh no, it was Carol Barnhart Chavez. Yeah, attorney Barnhart Chavez. And she asked me about an incident with Dixie at the Days Inn. When I took her to Santa Fe that one time, to give her some motherly sex education, not have sex with her, which is what I did with Our Bodies Ourselves, a book, and because she wouldn't stop masturbating around the house inappropriately. So I took her privately, without Carrie Ann, because Carrie Ann was too young. And, this was private between, I had to educate my daughter about, hey, that's okay, but do that privately and wash your hands, get fresh. It's like a self-soothing mechanism. It's okay. It's supposed to feel good. But there's appropriate ways of doing this. And so there was nothing to it, really. And apparently, because I never saw the letter from Gnosis Therapy until way later, Um, I guess after I accused him, they were having the girls do an evaluation in Taos, New Mexico. Why they had to do it in Taos, I don't know, but anyway, so apparently they were accusing me of being inappropriate with them to some degree, but they didn't pursue it. Nobody arrested me. I had no idea about this Gnosis letter that was sent to April Jolly. Yeah, the therapist Kelly Yancey Davis with Gnosis Therapy. Apparently, they said, my daughters said that in the past when I was with them, I was forcing them to watch pornography, that I was forcing them to have sex with stuffed animals, that I was bribing them to watch pornography, that I had them masturbating mercilessly. I couldn't, but I didn't find this out until way later, because nobody arrested me. It's like, why didn't you arrest me? I'm being accused of these atrocities. Why aren't you arresting me? I couldn't figure it out. I still can't. And I didn't know about all these accusations against me. Carlos Cordova couldn't either. It was really weird. I didn't know until, a couple years, what the girls were really saying about me behind my back. You'd think April Jolly would have talked to me about it. No, nothing. Nothing at all. And, I was trying to jump through their hoops, living at the Meth Lab Mobile Home Park. I don't do that crap. But, people looked at me really funny. I had nowhere to go. I had no money. Apparently, Mike told everybody I stole all the money, and there was no money to steal. I was broke. It's all get-go. I had no resources. It was awful. I have my check, but that's not until the 1st or the 3rd or whatever. It was awful. And there were a bunch of meth heads in there. There were. And I'm trying to jump through the hoops for April Jolly, and she's, I'm not getting visits with the kids. I did get visits. They would be canceled, rescheduled, or they'd say I was late. And no help, really no support at all. The only support I had was Ava, my therapist, and she didn't think I was a bad mom at all. But that's not what CYFD wanted to hear. Not at all. I was trying, but I was suffering a lot of brain damage. I wasn't functioning right. I couldn't. I had no time to heal. I went back to try to rescue my kids from that environment and tell them the truth. God. I'm sorry I did. I feel so bad for my kids. I really do, and if you're hearing this, I love you. This wasn't your fault at all. 2333 on the phone. I mean that. This wasn't your fault. What Michael Rubin programmed you to do or made you believe or what happened. It's still pretty confusing. I'm sharing it and, it's not easy. It's not easy to tell this truth to everybody. It's really hard, really. And, they wouldn't let me see the girls, really, and I felt like I was being set up all over the place, and I was being watched everywhere I went, everything I did, every reaction I had, and I was reactionary, too, because I was traumatized. You know how much it hurt to have my daughter say, "Why'd you murder my bird?" Well, yeah, it was like getting drop kicked right in the stomach. And my gastric bypass was not in good shape. I was suffering on the inside. I was dying. My guts were turning to shit because of all the stress. No, I wasn't doing what they were saying I was doing. But they made a lot of people believe it. Made a lot of people believe it. Just rumors, just stories about me, you know. I tried to kidnap my children from the foster home when they were in Carlos Cordova's. I didn't even know where Carlos Cordova lived. But yet, I guess in this church group, there's a church group that went to Carlos's house, I guess. There was a lady there with blonde hair, and they thought it was me trying to kidnap my children. Right. How's that going to happen in a little yellow car with no locks? But that's what I got accused of. It never even happened. But yet, that got spread like wildfire too. Or that I was riding by on bicycles taking pictures and stalking. Well, if any of that was really true, they would have arrested me. I wish they would have arrested me in the very beginning when they accused me of these atrocities. The only thing my attorney questioned me about was this thing at the Days Inn, Dixie. I'm like, okay, I let it go because I knew it wasn't true, so, and she did too. But yeah, I wish they would have got to the bottom of that. I wish they would have arrested me. And I know why they didn't, because they knew it wasn't true. Carrie Ann admitted it. That, forgive me, that what she said wasn't true. Because Carrie Ann said it on that Gnosis letter too. Carrie Ann told Carlos Cordova, no, none of that's true. But yet when it came to my hearing, they wouldn't produce my witness for me when I needed him. And they wouldn't let me testify for him because it gets better. Believe me. It gets better, it gets worse. Goodness gracious. Anyway, so that passed by, and that was September 9th was the day of the letter, and from Gnosis Therapy. The report, they never called the cops and investigated me. April Jolly never even talked to me about that letter, and it was addressed to her. They had an obligation to report it, and nobody reported anything. It's weird. No investigation, no arresting, because none of it was true. But boy, that stuff spread like wildfire, it do. And, and I'm sitting here waiting for a team meeting that's supposed to be at 3, my time. I'm just on the phone, thank God. And, I haven't spoken to Christopher. I haven't even spoken to the new attorney I'm supposed to have. And, yeah, I haven't even spoken to the new attorney I'm supposed to have. She hasn't called me. Carol didn't even tell me that she was withdrawn from the case. I haven't heard from her. I've emailed her. Nothing. So, forgive me for smoking. I need to breathe a little bit, I guess. That's what one of my therapists told me. Yeah, you just need to breathe, honey. And that was Trish with Gateway to Success. That's another part of the story. But anyway, so, yeah. These accusations were being flown around, and I had no clue, like that whole thing with the Raton VA Center. This stuff was being said about me. I had no idea what was happening behind the scenes. Nothing. And I went to this one team meeting, and immediately they took my stick from me, my walking stick that I needed. I was suffering my gastric bypass, and I still have AIDS and HIV, and my left side was, oh God, it was awful. The pain I was in. And having to be walking. And when I went to this team meeting, there was Carlos Cordova and Mike and the whole CYFD staff. And Mike and Carlos and I were out in the waiting room at CYFD there on Hospital Avenue, or Hospital Drive. And Mike and Carlos Cordova were talking. It was the first time. I didn't even know who he was in the beginning. I'd never met Carlos. But he was all cozy with Mike. And they're talking about how the girls are stealing from Carlos and his wife. They were fighting. and stealing and not doing what they're told. And Mike and Carlos are going all on about how the girls are misbehaving at Carlos's house. And then we all get called into the meeting, and in the meeting the whole script changed. All of a sudden, oh, the girls are doing great, they're doing great in school, they're thriving, they're getting their therapy, and everything was okay. And then we got to the disciplinary part. And Carlos said, well, Mike has me have them do 250 squats for not doing what they're told. And everybody's looking around, 250 squats? And Mike's going, yeah, that's what I have them do. And that's abusive. So at least they picked up on that. You got to stop that, Mr. Ledoux or Mr. Cordova. And so obviously Mike was telling Mr. Cordova how to discipline the girls. 250 squats, they don't even do that in the military. How much damage that can do to a child's body. But they didn't think, they just passed over it. But they were attacking me, asking me questions that, in retrospect, yeah, they were triggering me. Absolutely, they were doing it purposely. The stress that I went through was just immense. And then my attorney calls me later that day after the meeting. He says, what is going on, Terrence Cam? What is going on? I'm getting all these phone calls that you're misbehaving, that you're doing this and doing that. And he said, I can't take it. You got so many people against you. It's not even funny, honey. And he withdrew. He could not defend me because he knew that he couldn't believe what they were saying behind me. And in a way, I was kind of demanding with him. Terrence Cam. And, he couldn't get his head around it. He said, I'm withdrawing because you really don't have a chance in this community. They're all against you, really. So many. I'm like, gosh, what did I do? I'm just telling the truth. And he didn't like me doing videos either because I was telling the truth. He said, you got to stop making your videos. You got to stop telling the truth. Well, I'm sorry, that's not me, dude. It's not me. And it was really trippy what was happening to me. Totally. And I'm telling my truth, and he bowed out, and I got Barnhard Chavez. And they already knew what they were going to do to me. Already. They knew. All the stuff I didn't know that they were doing, too. Just the stuff I know is enough for anyone. And they building this whole case that it was all me, and blaming me for everything. At 3313. This is the saddest thing. Really. It was so confusing. And I thought I could go back and fix things. I thought I could go back and rescue my children. And they gave him everything. And Tina Lever with ATV told me they're going to give him everything, I went to go find out if I had any hearings scheduled with Dr. Reverend John Paul McGarry and Joey. And the clerk, Ivana, says, no, you got no hearings. No. I had one the next morning at 9 a.m. And Tina called me, hey, you got a hearing tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. Yeah, but Ivana, the clerk, said I had nothing. No hearings. Weirdest thing. And I went and that next morning, and went for my hearing, and Mike's going off because he said, well, why'd you murder my bird? She killed my bird. She murdered my bird. Ugh, I couldn't believe it. And Officer Oliver, who was in charge of the DV order, said, I'm going to regret you said that, sir. And I know I said that in the last video, but it was really important. Because he's telling everybody now I'm an animal murderer. And people are believing. Yeah. Yeah. And I would go to visit my children for a scheduled visit, and all I got was a urine cup from April Jolly. Didn't let me see my kids. And when I did see them, CYFD was saying I was letting them drink tea that I brought with me. Well, it's just tea, there's nothing in it, you know? And they kept saying I was being offensive and that I wasn't doing what I was supposed to be doing when I was trying. And I would have a scheduled visit. I drove through a snowstorm to get to my kids. They could have called me and said, hey, we're rescheduling. But instead of that, when I got back to my hotel room after driving in the snow to see my children, I get a card. Oh, we had to cancel your visit. Yeah. But I was trying. And all I was getting was slam doors. I should have left. And Tina with ATV was correct. They're going to give him everything. And I was explaining to Sarah Barnhart Chavez about how they were violating me and not letting me see my kids and not letting me ask any questions. And she said, you have a whole slew of violations that they've done to you. And Tina Lever was sitting right there when I was on the phone. If this is really true, well, it was. But apparently the state of New Mexico has a slush fund, and attorneys do what they're told to do, not follow the law. Not at all. And I'm not taking any calls. And unless they're from my son Lucas, who I left a message. I gave him 24 hours to talk to me before I told the truth about everything. Everything like I'm doing here, because my son was so against me, I just didn't recognize it at the time. So, yeah, and I had gotten a place. Finally, I got out of the meth lab mobile home park. Thank God. And Angel Zadkiel helped me there. And I went to stay with Richard Fox. I rented a room from him. He's a nice man. He also saw that I was very angry and very hurt about what was going on. I was in a lot of confusion. And I didn't stay there very long. I had to leave. Because there's just too much going on around me. And Joey, wasn't with me. I was separated from him. So I thought that's what they wanted. I thought, and I thought that I didn't want to be with Joe at that time. We were having issues. And he would turn into Mike Ledoux. He would say something that would trigger me, like, you planned this all along. And I would take it out on Joey when it was Mike who was doing that to me. And he would say something that Mike would say, just accidentally, and I would take it out on Joey. I would get triggered, big time. And this one time, during my stay in Raton, Joey and I were able to stay with Chuck and Lucia Hyde on Brilliant Street in Raton. And John, I guess, talked to him, and he rented us this camper in his backyard. And we had our puppy Dubai, and something happened. We were drinking, unfortunately. I got myself in a lot of trouble drinking like that. And Joey accidentally scared the puppy. He scared her, and she yelped. Dubai did. And I thought he hurt her. And immediately he turned into Michael Rubin Ledoux right in front of me, and I went off on him. You hurt my baby, you hurt my baby, you hurt my baby. And I was livid. I lost it. He turned into Mike. I started beating the crap out of him. I did. I felt so bad about it. And there was so much happening to me, I couldn't figure it out. And so I left, and I got accepted for America's Got Talent for an audition, in San Diego, California. And I said, God, after all this, I'm out of here. I'm gone, man. I'm just going. So I took my little puppy, and we went. And we got to a place called Parks, Arizona. I'll never forget it. And I'm on my way. I thought Joe had hit me. I thought Joe hurt me and hurt my puppy. Apparently I passed out or something. I forget. But on that drive, wasn't long after that, on that drive, I had to figure out what happened. Because I was so confused. I was so confused. Lost in so many ways. Broken. People wouldn't know it from looking at me, but I was very broken. The whole experience. All the lies and everything. The way they made me look bad just because I wanted to be honest about everything. Anyway, so I stopped in Parks, Arizona, and it was weird because it's where all the 666 highways intersected. And I stopped at this place called, I think it was called the Cock and Bull. And it was like a gas station and a restaurant, right? And I'm parked there with Dubai, and she had to go to the bathroom, so of course I took her out, and I felt all these eyes on me. It was the weirdest feeling. And I could tell something was watching us, right? So I got back in Buzz Buzz with Dubai, and Buzz Buzz wouldn't start. Buzz Buzz would not start, and I had to go to the bathroom, but something told me, do not go in there. Do not go in to that place. And I'm going, okay, well, I got no heat. It was really cold. And I'm sitting there with not knowing what hey, tow place ain't going to be here till the morning, so no sense in calling AAA. I'll just stay right here inside Buzz Buzz. And all these cars started pulling up around me. SUVs and stuff. I'm going, what's going on? And this one guy got out of this red SUV. It's like an Escalade or something. And him and this other guy are talking. He had a white glove on. He had one white glove on. I think it was on his right hand. And could have been the left, but it didn't matter. I noticed this white glove. And I'm sitting there with Dubai. I'm looking at Dubai. I'm listening to these guys behind Buzz Buzz, and this guy said, she's not getting out of there. She's not moving. She will not get out of that car. She won't. And sure as shit, I didn't. I'm staying right here, Dubai. Wow, it was freaky. And by the morning, I couldn't even feel my feet. I was so cold. It was everything just for me to keep Dubai warm, too. Luckily, I had my jackets. And I insulated as good as I could, but I didn't feel my feet forever because they were frozen. And in the morning, I missed my audition. I'm 8 hours behind now. I'm not going to make it. There's no way. And if I remember correctly, I had a meeting with CYFD. I wasn't going to make that either. No. So I thought, okay. And April Jolly was never really nice to me. She did what she felt she had to do, but she never helped me. No. No. And in fact, it was quite the opposite. And I drove back, going through Arizona. I got to the Four Corners. I went through, I sang the Star Spangled Banner at the Grand Canyon in Dubai. And we were up there at night in the Grand Canyon. And it was a beautiful drive. The freeways in Arizona were incredible. So we're there under the moonlight together, me and my Dubai. And I started figuring out what happened between Joey and I. how that fight even started. And I started remembering him holding me from hitting him, because I thought he turned into Michael Rubin, and I thought he hurt my puppy, like my babies, because I knew Mike was hurting my kids. So it triggered me, and it wasn't Joey, it was me. And I recognized on that drive back, I had to go back and tell the truth. It wasn't Joey that hurt me, because they arrested him. The judge is like, what happened? You guys were doing so good, what happened? And I put a restraining order on him. Tina Lever with ATV was with me. And I had to go back and tell him everything. I had to go back and tell him the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help me. And I did. And I had to admit everything, and of course, they didn't want me around Joey. And until I got back, Joey was still trying to reach me, poor baby. He had to go stay with Johnny Monk by Super Safe and outside in the tent. And I wasn't with him. And eventually I figured it all out, and Chuck and Lucia Hyde ended up, they said they'd never throw me out in the cold. And, phew. Yeah, the cops come that night in the snow and made me go. The cops escorted me as I threw whatever I could in Buzz Buzz. And I had nowhere to go. Again. And Chuck and Lucia turned on me too when I said, hey, we don't care about the money. And Chuck had said to me, well, we're not comfortable with you staying here anymore because, we talked to your family. And I said, what family did you talk to? And he buttoned up and wouldn't say anything about it. He just said, we're not comfortable with you being here. Next thing I knew, I guess he evicted me. I didn't even know I had a hearing. I was sitting there at CYFD. Oh, no, not at the court there in Colfax County at the 8th Judicial. And I was trying to see if my children were living. I was scared for my girls, really scared. And I'm calling April Jolly there from the court. I'm going, I'd like to know if my kids are alive or dead. Please, I'd like to know. And they wouldn't tell me anything. I just sat there and I'm all scared, They wouldn't tell me anything. I was confused. And I had went for an IEP for Carrie Annie at the Springer School. And John, the principal, really nice guy. We had a good IEP, and I was finding out how they were helping my Carrie Annie. And so when they wouldn't tell me if my daughters were alive or dead, I decided, well, I'm going to go there to the school just to see, and introduce him to my puppy, Dubai. And I pull up to the school, and I before I left in the court, this cop came up to me, and he handed me some paperwork, and I guess this was the eviction that Chuck and Lucia Hyde had done to me. And he said, you need to read this, do you understand? And I'm like, I'm in shock, I'm crying because they won't tell me if my kids are alive or dead, and he had no business serving me right there. He didn't. And so I didn't see it, so I didn't go to any court date. Otherwise, I would have won, because I paid my rent. I had the canceled check. But, next thing I knew, here come the cops, giving me this skidoo from Chuck and Lucia's place. Nowhere to go again. It was really sad, especially for me. But, they blamed me for everything, really. And then, I had to get my things. I wasn't with Joey, I was alone. And, Yeah, I'm glad this part's almost over. I have 10 more minutes left or so. And so, everybody that tried to help me got in trouble, or I had trouble with them. And John helped me get a place. I sent Joey back to Texas just to completely get Joey out of the way. I spent every dime I had getting him back to Texas so I could fight for my kids. And I thought, okay, that way he's out of the way, less for me to think about. I can focus on getting my babies, or visitation, or anything. And John took me over to Viola Trio's house, Sam and Viola. And I had a bad feeling. I had nowhere else to go, no place to stay. I had buzz, but oh God, I needed a place. And I remember going to housing, and when I was staying at Chuck and Lucia's, I had called the apartments, the Somersets, to try to get a place. I knew it because, we lived right across from the Somersets. It's not the best place, but, it was affordable. And I talked to the manager, I think John was his name, and he said, yeah, we got an apartment that's all ready to move into, and, who are you going to have with you? And I said, well, there's just me, and I got my 2 daughters that, I think, at that time they could stay with me if I have a stable place. I could visit them. That's what they wanted me to achieve, was to have a place and get stability, right? Right. So, I'm getting all ready. I'm all excited to move into this apartment. And I had to have April Jolly go and bring the girls' birth certificates to the manager. And then as soon as he got the paperwork, I'd be able to move in. The unit was available for that weekend. And then after April Jolly had went to him, all of a sudden, I called, trying to get my apartment, and the manager's gone, and they have no idea who I am. I even applied for a job there to help them. And it was the weirdest thing. They totally turned as soon as April Jolly went there. With CYFD. Weirdest thing. And all of a sudden, this manager had a heart attack and he was sick, right? And they didn't know where he was or if he was coming back. He worked there for a long time. It's weird. And some another property manager, no, we don't have any availability. Well, he said it was available right away. No, sorry, it's not. No, things changed. Oh, okay. And, wow. Yeah, that was an experience to have. And so, I got this place with Viola and Sam. And Joey was all the way down to Texas, and I'm calling him, and I'm telling him everything that's going on. And he couldn't believe it. We thought we did the right thing, And so John takes me to Viola's, man, and I had a bad feeling. I really did. I wish I would have listened to my intuition, but then I wasn't as healed as I am now. And so I got this bad, and I said to John, are you betting on the underdog or what? And he just looked. I said, John, don't leave me here. I don't feel good about this. I really don't. And John's like, I don't know where else to take you. I had all my stuff in his car and in Buzz, what I could get anyway. And so against my better judgment and my gut, I said, okay. I unloaded my stuff at Viola's and Sam's. And unfortunately, there were no locks on the doors except, the doors to get in the house. My bedroom didn't have a lock. There was a bathroom in between Viola and Sam's room and ours, or mine. And Viola had me moving her, and I'm in pain, I'm disabled, and she wants me to move furniture with her at 11 o'clock at night. And I'm like, Viola, I'm not. So I did. Actually, I went to go help her. And she had left a candle on the table. Well, when we moved it, the candle fell, and she blamed me. And she should have moved it. And she flipped chips. She was calling me a whore as I come in the door. I'm like, oh man, this is. I knew this was gonna. Yeah, and I was right. I was right. At first, it was okay, but then she getting more and more dominating on me, wanting me to do stupid stuff. Demanding, really. And so, there was an incident when I was staying there, and I went just to get away from everything, and I was parked at this. It was like an empty lot. It was, a property. It was unfenced and everything, just on a dirt road. And I'm sitting there in Buzz, and I have my little shade up, and I'm sitting there, and it was at night, and I'm looking out the window, at the stars. And I could see angels in the tree line, lights, watching me on the tree line. And it was a distance. It was, maybe 100 yards or something. And not even that. And I could see God in the stars. It's the trippiest thing. And it was like the stars were outlining him, And he's looking at me, and he puts his hand out and points his finger at me. And I point my finger back, and there was a star right between us, and we touched fingers. It was really, really trippy. And all of a sudden, here comes this black, like Cadillac SUV, right? Big thing. And it pulls up next to me in Buzz. And the shotgun comes out and is pointed at me. And I'm going, hoo-wee. So I roll down my window, I look over, I said, do me a favor, will you please? Right here. Do me a favor. Get me out of this, because I can't take this. It was awful. And when I did that, I saw that shotgun coming out my face. They took off. They pulled up, and they pulled up at this house that was right there, and they turned around and had their headlights on me. I'm like, what is going on here? I'm just sitting here. I'm minding my own business, man. I'm not hurting anybody. They wouldn't stop shining their lights at me, but I had like a shade up, so I could see them. They couldn't really see me. And then they took off. And I'm going, no, I'm not leaving. I'm not letting them intimidate me and scare me like that, God. No, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying right here. And I could hear the heavenly speak to me, say, if you want to live another day, you get out of there right away. You get out of there. And I said, okay. And I listened to my intuition. I got out of there. And I parked. I wasn't too far from Sam and Viola's. It was only maybe a couple blocks. And I got Buzz all parked in and snuggled in and turned off my lights, put up my shade so I couldn't be seen. And I could hear someone doing rounds like they were looking for me. And I heard the same engine signature going round the block, round. And I got Joe on the phone, and I'm looking up at the Raton sign and the flag up there. And I'm going, what is going on? Joe, I'm scared. They just put a shotgun in my face. And he says, I'm coming back. I'm coming back to get you. You're not safe, honey. You're not safe, baby. He said, you stay where you're at. For now, I'll get there. And so Joey, he came all the way back for me. Because he knew this is not cool. And we didn't stay there very long, just enough for, I think we stayed there. I know Rosie and Brent, they dropped off Joey, and they stayed for a couple days, and they went home again, and Joe stayed with me, Buzz. And I had lost my puppy Dubai when Joey and I had that fight, and Tina Lever gave her to Noah's Ark in Trinidad, and I never got her back.
Yeah, they got shut down.
Yeah, and they got shut down. So anyway, from there, nothing was working in my favor, and I'm over an hour. So we'll leave it there, and on to chapter the next one. Yeah, hopefully I can get it out today and done. Love you, loves. Really, I do. I'm just telling this for me. It's not about you. Really. Love you.